Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, the weekly segment which I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. And I have one question to ask you. Are you Team Dive or Team Headlock? Raw begins with Kurt Angle explaining that Braun Strowman is out with an arm injury and will be out for allegedly up to 6 months, which makes me a very sad panda because his presence on Raw has been a huge boon for the brand, and for him to be gone for as long a time as it's going to be, it's going to make the brand suffer in the long term. And I say allegedly gone for up to 6 months because, like, how many times have we seen the company be shifty with their return timetables from injury? How many times have we heard, like, oh, John Cena's going to be out for 9 months. He comes back in like 3 or 4, you know? Those timetables, we never know for sure just what the actual number is, whether it's the amount of how hard, you know, the wrestlers working to come back, or they're just bullshitting us. Who really knows for sure? I think it's one of those things where Strowman can come back in half the time and it'll make him look more of a superhuman, kind of like what they did with Cena. So who really knows for sure? But best of luck to Braun Strowman getting better soon and going back to kicking ass on the red brand. Angle makes the main event for Extreme Rules. It's an Extreme Rules fatal 5-way match with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Bray Wyatt, and Finn Balor to determine the #1 contender for Brock Lesnar's Universal Championship. What's the deal with all the 5-ways last few months between all of the major brands, Raw, SmackDown, and 205 Live? We're seeing them just really gunning for these fatal 5-ways, it seems. 5 just feels so clunky to me. They can't round it down to an even 4. I don't know what the deal with that is. Anyway, all of the parties for that match come out one at a time. They say since Roman Reigns comes out, says it's his yard, he's beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, he put Strowman on the shelf, he's like the one person who's actually could stand a chance against Brock Lesnar, he deserves to be #1 contender. All these people come out and make their case. Finn Balor says the same thing he said 2 weeks ago, actually. Eventually, all 5 guys do a bit of a brawl. Finn Balor hits a plancha onto Rollins and Reigns to the outside and stands tall at the end of the segment. Jeff Hardy taking on Sheamus in singles action. The bulk of the match is Sheamus tossing Jeff around like he's trash. At one point, Sheamus hits this really sick-looking knee to the face to Jeff. And miraculously, Jeff kicks out of that. The match ends when Cesaro gets on the apron. Matt decks him. Jeff almost crashes into Matt during an Irish whip spot. Sheamus brogue kicks Matt on the second attempt. There's this spot where he kicks Matt and like he whiffs it. He misses him by this much. Matt wisely doesn't sell it, but he just stands there looking like an idiot, and Sheamus looks even dumber because he's got to do the kick again to hit Matt, and then he gets knocked off. It was just, ooh, that was brutal looking botch there. Jeff hits the twist of fate and the swanton on Sheamus to win the match. So yeah, everything in the match is fine except for, that brogue kick. Ugh. Sasha Banks taking on Alicia Fox in a rematch from last week when the whole pinfall controversy when Alicia's shoulder inadvertently went up during the pinfall. So they're following up on it here. This match to me felt super rushed. I don't know if it's just like these girls don't know how to pace themselves, or they were short on time and they had to rush everything to get done. But everything's like spot, 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 spot. This match is like 3 minutes long. It was ridiculously short, it felt like. At one point, Booker T, and I don't know if this was, a subtle hint or not, but he described Sasha Banks as, at one point, she was the flavor of the month, which is like such a weird thing to say for one of the top women on your division, your whole roster for that matter, for as accomplished as Sasha Banks is. And here she loses to Alicia Fox with the axe kick. And like that was kind of amazing. I can't remember the last time Alicia won a singles match. Anyone on the comment section, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first singles one she's had in a long time, at least on Raw. So it was interesting. And like these two, I don't know if this is going to lead to something more down the line. But between the last 2 weeks of what they've had, especially this particular week, I actually kind of want to see more of Alicia and Sasha Banks. I don't want to see it to the level of like Sasha and Charlotte from last year, God forbid. But I think that Alicia, I think in this capacity has something to offer. Intercontinental Championship on the line as Dean Ambrose defends against The Miz. This, in my opinion, was one of the stronger matches these two have had against each other over the last several months in their rivalry. I thought it was a great match. The finish was a little underwhelming, but I saw what they did with it and where they were going with it, so I'm going to forgive it there. But I mean, I think it was a great match. I love the sequence they had where Miz goes off the top rope, Dean kicks him in the gut, goes to the Dirty Deeds, Miz blocks it, they do the roll-up spot where Dean suddenly has Miz rolled up, Miz kicks Dean. He does the rebound spot in the ropes, gets caught in the skull-crushing finale. I've never seen that happen before, and Dean kicks out. A great moment when The Miz is on the outside, Ambrose is on the top rope ready to do the elbow, Maurice does the whole human shield gimmick, and for once, someone finally stands up to her and says, you know, you're the guy out of the way, I'm going to hit you, and Ambrose goes off the top rope, Maurice gets out of the way, and Ambrose hits Miz. The match ends when Maurice goes on the apron to distract, Miz goes for the low blow, or as Corey Graves awesomely described in the replay, a strong style inner thigh grab. That was brilliant. He goes for the low blow, Dean catches it and turns around and, as many of my fans point out on Twitter, took The Miz to Dick Kick City, but the referee sees it. It's blatant low blow, and the match is thrown out. Disqualification. The Miz wins by DQ. Ambrose keeps the title, and they're going to follow up with Extreme Rules in a rematch for the title where Dean can lose the belt if he is disqualified or counted out. So that's what that led to. And so yeah, I think it was a really fast-paced, fun match. The finish was a little meh, but again, I get where they were going with it, so I'm okay with it. The women's champion, Alexa Bliss, comes out to cut a promo. During the whole thing, there's a bunch of what chants happening. Alexa has the perfect counter to that, saying, if you're a failure, say what? And of course, the crowd chants what, because they can't help themselves. Bayley interrupts and says she's invoking her rematch clause for the championship at Extreme Rules. Bliss just runs her down, saying, you're a little kid, you'll never be extreme, you can't beat me. Bayley retaliates, they have a scuffle. Bliss pulls out a kendo stick from under the ring, hits Bayley with it once, and gets an EC dub chant from the crowd. Boy, in 2017, it doesn't take a whole lot to get that chant anymore, does it? And of course, the best part, after the fracas is over, Kurt Angle makes a match for Extreme Rules, Bayley, Alexa Bliss for the championship in a kendo stick on a pole match. You're gonna appreciate this, bro. Cruiserweight time as Jack Gallagher and Austin Aries team up to take on Neville and TJP in tag team action in apparently the only Cruiserweight angle worth a damn, worth covering on Raw at the moment. I'm sure there are other angles and storylines going on 205 Live at the time, but you sure wouldn't know it from watching Raw. At one point in the hot tag, there's this awkward moment with Gallagher and TJP on opposite corners of the ring, like waiting for their cue, like they're waiting for Aries and Neville to get back in the ring to do their spot, kind of a clunky little spot here. And here's something that made me laugh. You've got Austin Aries, who for the last 3 weeks has been selling a leg injury, by the way. He gets on the top rope and he jumps down onto the floor onto Neville. Very smart strategy there. The match ends when TJP hits the detonation kick on Gallagher, wins the match for his team, which is all fine and good, but it was really hard for me to pay attention to the match when you've got, you know, all these asshole crowd chants. They were going, we want, at first I thought they were chanting, we want Regal or we want Meatloaf. Turns out people were responding to me on Twitter saying, we want Beach Ball is what they're saying, which awesome. I love when they decide to take the piss out of this Cruiserweight match by saying, we want Beach Ball. That's awesome. And then CM Punk chants, like, get over it. Finn Balor taking on Roman Reigns in a rematch from last summer, and this, in my opinion, was the match of the night. Probably my favorite match between the two shows this week. I think that they had great chemistry last summer when they wrestled in that first Raw after the draft, and I saw more of the same here. Big kudos to Roman Reigns, because unlike last week, this week, he sold the rib injury. Like, yay, gold star for you, Roman. A lot of stiff, snug stuff happening in this match. The speed at which Roman Reigns hurdles himself into the corner post when Finn gets out of the way in the corner and just like eats the post with his shoulder. Oh, that was brutal to watch. And then later on, Roman does the drive-by onto Finn, and Finn throws himself into the post. That also looked really like full contact, looked nasty. In the end, Finn's going for the coup de Gracie, but Roman knocks him off the top, hits him with the spear, and beats him. That's all she wrote. Very hard-hitting, very entertaining match for these two. So earlier in the night, the Golden Truth are backstage, and Goldust is trying to cheer R-Truth up. Hey, don't feel bad about losing the tag team turmoil match for us. You know, where's that smile? We got Anderson and Gallows to fight tonight, so it's all going to be good. And so they come out here in this point in the show. R-Truth, they hold the whole intro. R-Truth goes, what's up? And then from out of nowhere, Goldust just clocks him from behind, and then spends like a really long time beating him up, like an uncomfortably long amount of time. Like, it's uncomfortable the amount of which he's beating him up, and the announcers are just stunned by it all. It was just so weird to see, you know, Goldust as a heel in 2017. I never thought I'd see that. I figured by now he's like an elder statesman who just through sheer longevity is just going to be cheered no matter what. Who knows what's going to happen next week, but I thought it was just very interesting to see Goldust do this heel turn. If anything, I figured it'd be R-Truth, but I think Goldust, he's the one who has like more to prove. Like, he's the one who has the drive to like, I want to be the best again, and so he's beating the R-Truth. The one thing that would have made this thing better is at the very end, he pulls out a cigarette and takes a drag and just blows smoke in R-Truth's face. Enzo and Cass come out. Very surprising that it was this late in the show that these guys are there, considering Enzo is the New Jersey guy. I'm kind of surprised he wasn't there in one of the first segments, just get the crowd hyped up, but it's probably a good strategy to keep the crowd hyped for that third hour. They do their thing. Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews come out to interrupt, and you see like this whole thing where Titus is doing the whole Enzo shtick right on down to the dance, and Apollo is just kind of shaking his head and telling, no, don't do it, no, stop. And it's actually pretty funny stuff. Titus, who's wearing a full suit at this point, he's not dressed to wrestle. He's under the impression that Apollo is taking on Enzo in this match, but it turns out it's Titus taking on Big Cass. And there's not a whole lot to this match. I think it's maybe 2 minutes in total. Titus does get some early kicks in on Big Cass. At one point, he takes his belt off, like he's gonna whip him, and then Big Cass hits him with the boot, and that's all she wrote. 1, 2, 3, Big Cass wins, and there's this moment where Enzo he picks up Titus's phone that he dropped and tries to do a selfie with him, but Apollo Crews gets mad and kicks Enzo, so Apollo is standing with Titus in the ring at the end, even though Enzo and Cass won. Very interesting dynamic with Apollo and Titus, you know, because Titus clearly is doing the whole Titus brand thing. Apollo's kind of reluctantly going along with it, like, what is their relationship? How strong is their bond? I'm very curious about that. Main event time as Bray Wyatt took on Seth Rollins. At one point, they decided in the middle of the match to slap on that full screen graphic of, oh, by the way, here's the main event for Extreme Rules while this match is going on. Fatal 5-way Extreme Rules for the number one contendership. Like, we know that. You've said it enough times. And by the way, they're branding this a match that could change the future of the new era, which is a weird thing to say. I don't know what they mean by that, but just so weird placement to like put this full graphic with sound effect in the middle of your main event match. Like, it's one thing to have a little lower third or something in the corner like a bug, but like full screen, that was just, it took me out of it. It was so weird. The match ends when Samoa Joe gets in the match and beats up Seth Rollins again. The match is thrown out on their disqualification. So Bray and Joe working together to beat up Seth Rollins here after the match is over. You think there's some collusion here, but it's very short-lived. Bray hits Joe with Sister Abby, then he hits Seth with it, and so he's standing tall at the end saying, follow the buzzards, and that's the end of the show. Kind of a lukewarm way to end the show, in my opinion. I don't like DQ finishes in main events. This was, you know, I think a few people here tonight had some taking turns standing tall of the 5 guys. You had Finn looking good, the opener, you know, Roman Reigns looking good, middle of the show. Bray looks good here. So now maybe in the next couple weeks we'll see Joe and we'll see Seth has some chance to shine as well. SmackDown begins with Kevin Owens, and you know what that means? America, 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 America. He's hosting the Kevin Owens highlight reel, and he's talking trash about Jericho, who he beat up a few weeks ago. Like, that's great, but I mean, I thought we were going to move on beyond that point now. I think Jericho's written off, like, that's fine, and we move on to the whole AJ Styles thing. I really hope that this does not become a regular thing. I don't want to see Owens hosting the highlight reel. I don't want to see him hosting an interview show, period. Kevin Owens does not need an interview show. Interview shows need Kevin Owens, as far as I'm concerned. Also, the serious voice he was doing, I don't know if it's just a jet lag, if he's being tired from the flight back from the UK or not, but him doing the serious voice, he just sounds tired. He begins speaking in French to introduce his guest. AJ Styles interrupts him. He says some words. Jinder Mahal comes out and he says some words. They have some boilerplate banter going back and forth, and this leads to the Styles Jinder Mahal match that was advertised at the top of the show. So Kevin Owens is on commentary here. One thing I wanted to address, especially after watching this match, was I think that there's a lot of people online who are still trying to knock Jinder for his ability in the ring. Like, oh, he's so green, he's so sloppy, except for like the one errant forearm to Finn Balor from a few weeks ago. I really haven't seen any huge signs of him like not being a capable wrestler. I don't see him looking green. I don't see him looking sloppy. Like, I went back and watched the main event that I fell asleep during last week on SmackDown, and people were saying, oh, he was like, people were tweeting me last week saying, oh, he still looks so weak, I didn't see it. I think Jinder is a perfectly capable worker, and I thought he looked great in this match. It might have, you know, the fact that he was wrestling AJ Styles might have contributed to that, but still. The match ends when Styles is teasing the phenomenal forearm. The Singh brothers distract. Kevin Owens gets up from commentary, decks AJ in the leg with the title belt, and then Jinder brings him back in and hits him with the Cobra Clutch Slam, which they're calling the Colossus. I don't know how to spell it, I just know how to say it. So hits him with the Colossus, wins the match. Huge win for Jinder Mahal, going over arguably the top guy on SmackDown right now. Huge momentum going into Backlash against Randy Orton. Fashion Files continue with Breezango. This time Tyler Breeze comes back from a long stint in Recon as a janitor. I thought that was some great stuff, talking about all the different people's merchandise. Baron Corbin, 3 shirts, 1 wolf. They talk more about the Usos match coming up. They do a whole freeze frame at the end with the high five, and they hold the pose for a really long time. The fact they were able to keep their composure and not just like break and not laugh holding it for that long, I thought that was amazing. Win or lose at Backlash, I really hope that the Fashion File segments are a semi-regular thing with these guys at the very least. This moves on to a short match between Breezango and the Colognes, who I don't think we've seen since the first or second week after the shakeup. This was a pretty short match. Fandango wins with the Falcon Arrow, and then afterward the Usos come out. They cut another fiery promo at Breezango, kind of playing up the whole cops and robbers element thing, the Usos penitentiary. Pretty strong promo here. I can't remember the last time the Usos have wrestled. I think they've won the belts from American Alpha, and like that was it. Speaking of which, where the hell is American Alpha in all this? Where's the rest of the tag team division? They're just kind of falling off the map. It's like the recurring problem with the tag scene on SmackDown. But it's very unique, and it's very rare, it feels like, to have this feud, especially for a championship, any feud in general right now on TV, where there's like no physical contact between the two parties. I don't think Breezango and the Usos have like hit each other once in the weeks leading up to this particular match. The table is set in the middle of the ring for a contract signing for the 6-woman tag team match for Backlash. Quick question, did this match really necessitate a public contract signing? Title matches are one thing. This, I think, is a little different priority. Natalya is the only one who speaks on behalf of the welcoming committee. Meanwhile, on the face side, all 3 women actually get some words in as they sign the contract. Charlotte reiterates she's going for Naomi's Women's Championship after the match, which further plants seeds of dissent and more questions. Can this team truly bond at Backlash? Can they coexist? James Ellsworth pops up and starts talking trash to all 3 of the face women as he's talking about Naomi. Naomi grabs him, Carmella comes in to break it up, and Shane makes a match right there on the spot for Carmella versus Naomi after the break. Carmella screams a lot. I never realized how much she did that until this match. Like pretty much every time Naomi went after her or hit her, she basically screamed like a banshee. That got old real quick. At one point, Ellsworth pulls Carmella out of the ring to save her from the rear view. He gets ejected. It's kind of like that thing when you're playing 2K17 and you're fighting a guy with 3 managers. You can't ever really beat the guy until all 3 of those people are ejected. You got to keep working at it. So yeah, eventually Tamina gets up on the apron and the referee catches her and says, "You and Natalya are both out of here." They have a fight with Charlotte and Becky on the outside. In the distraction, Naomi is rolled up by Carmella, and Carmella wins for the team. Great little heel segment with Dolph Ziggler here where he says that Shinsuke Nakamura has done nothing in WWE. He tries to show a highlight package of Shinsuke, but it goes blank, says footage not found. Of course, not counting what he's done in NXT, of course, but he says, look at this thing I've done. This is really cool, like career highlight package for him, all the titles he's won, all the accolades and stuff. So it really makes Dolph Ziggler look like a prick for like saying, oh, Shinsuke's done nothing. Look at all this cool stuff I've done. Makes Dolph Ziggler look the best like he's looked, I think, since No Mercy, honestly. It's been a while. So it's good heat for Dolph going into his match with Shinsuke. Sami Zayn's talking about Baron Corbin. They have a match this Sunday at Backlash now. It's been official. Sami's talking about Baron Corbin. He gets clocked from behind by Baron. He gets beat up a lot. Sami's just really stopped doing interviews and talking about Baron Corbin because if you talk about him, you're just going to get beat up. Main event time, Randy Orton taking on Baron Corbin in a non-title match. Great line during the beatdown that Corbin was giving Randy here. He says, "They like you. That's why I'm hurting you." That was a pretty cool line. Great, solid, enjoyable match between these two guys. The one thing that I got a gripe with, though, is that they did the Baron Corbin baseball slide in and out of the ring 3 times in this match. Now, granted, only one of them actually worked, but I think it's excessive when he does it twice. You know, I think it's just, to me, that spot, if you do it more than once, just shows like it's such wasted effort. The first time you do it, it's like he's being clever and he's being quick on his feet. He's getting out of the ring, running right back into it. When he does it a second time, it's like, okay, it's kind of like the Dean Ambrose rope rebound thing. If you do it more than once in a match, or if you do it a lot or all the time, it gets kind of old and kind of contrived. Like in wrestling, I know it's wrestling, so you know, whatever, but you know, you try and avoid the contrivedness of it all. You try and make it look like a fight at times, in my opinion. And so when Corbin did that spot 3 times, I thought it was a little too much. The third time he gets caught with the RKO. Orton wins the match. There's a small part of me that thought that it would have been nice to see Sami Zayn get a little bit of heat, just a little bit of heat going into their match at Backlash, because he's been getting beat up so much by Corbin lately. To have him like run in and like cost Baron Corbin the match, or like run in at the end after the match and beat up Corbin a little bit, would have been nice. Would have been something. On the other hand, I'm glad they didn't do that because there have been enough distractions and run-ins and stuff throughout the whole show, and we'll see that in just a minute, that I think it would have been just more of the same. It would have been redundant and repetitive. So I guess in that sense, it's nice they did not do that, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have Sammy get a little bit of fire going into the match. So Randy's celebrating the win. Jinder Mahal comes out, talks some smack to Orton as he's walking down the aisle. The distraction, there's a distraction I was telling you about a minute ago. The Singh brothers come in, they jump Randy, the numbers game. It's a 3-on-1 assault, and Jinder hits the Colossus on Randy. He's standing tall at the end of the show, going into the go-home show at Backlash. I said a while ago that when Jinder won the #1 contendership, that they had like a finite amount of time to make Jinder look like a credible threat to Orton, and I think they've done it. I think they really accomplished this. I think they made him look better here than, say, like when Dolph Ziggler fought Dean Ambrose last summer for the title. I think, you know, that was an unlikely #1 contendership thing. Jinder Mahal, I think it was from an even bigger deficit, but in just a few short weeks, they've really made Jinder look really strong. Yes, he has had a lot of outside help from the Singh brothers, and that plays into the whole character. I think it works for him, and I think they're making him look like a very, very tangible, very probable threat to Randy Orton right now. Time now for me to decide who won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. Now, last week, I said that nobody won. It was the first time in a long time I made it a draw, and that's not the case this week. In my opinion, Raw wins for the week, and let me tell you why. I think that overall, the quality of the matches overall was stronger on Raw than SmackDown. I loved Ambrose versus Miz. I loved Finn Balor versus Roman. I thought Goldust's heel turn was just so, I mean, to me it was out of the blue, and it felt just, it was cool. It was unexpected. And I think it adds a lot of intrigue. I'm curious to see where it goes. Goldust can clearly still go. You know, at his age, he's just like immortal. I want to see Goldust get like another. I'd love to see him get like a singles run. I want to see him like get the Intercontinental title at some point. I mean, it's kind of tied up with Miz and Ambrose right now, but just give him something, you know, before he finally goes out in a blaze of glory. The Enzo and Cass stuff with Titus O'Neil, I thought was really entertaining for what it was. What I didn't like about Raw was, first of all, that bro kick, the botched bro kick to Matt Hardy. That was tough to look at. And then another thing that I will elaborate on more in an editorial next week. Too many dives. I feel like we just saw a lot of, you know, and we see this every week, but I just feel like after the whole controversy of the dive headlock thing, which some of you might not know what I'm talking about, but just go on Reddit, you'll see what I mean. I feel like every match on Raw of like any kind of consequence had some like big dive happening, and like, was it needed? Was the dive necessary? No, it's just like, it's part of these wrestlers' main repertoires, and they got to get them in every week, and it just, I think it, you know, over time it's just been getting killed. And the fact that almost every match had a dive, and it's like, you've killed the dive. You know, I think you can only pop the crowd with that so often, you've desensitized them. And again, I will elaborate more on this next week, but that was just kind of a pet peeve of mine as I was watching. Like, goddamn, a lot of dives in this show. For SmackDown, what I liked about that show this week was, again, Jinder Mahal looking great at the beginning of the show when he beat AJ Styles, at the end of the show when he stood tall over Randy Orton. I think they, like I said, they did a very good job building him up as a credible threat to Orton's title. I love the Fashion Files stuff. I think last week's in the UK was a little weak, but this one bounced back in a big way. I think that everything on Backlash's card got some love. Like, they checked all the boxes, and they made sure everything got some love. You know, Dolph Ziggler and Shinsuke, it was just like a little pre-tape promo, but I think it still works. At least it's not an in-ring, you know, talking and scuffling like the last few weeks have been. You know, tag team titles got some love. Orton and Jinder, AJ and Owens, and the six-woman tag team match. Like, all that stuff got focused, and Corbin and Zayn as well. The cons, I don't know why Kevin Owens is doing the highlight reel. I thought that was a very weird thing to do. I get he's getting more heat on Chris Jericho, but he doesn't need that. He just needs to focus on AJ Styles. I thought the contract signing was kind of a superfluous way to generate that Naomi Carmella match. They could have done that some other way, in my opinion, and not a distractions, you know, like, whereas Raw had all these dives, SmackDown had all these like distractions from like the opener with Jinder and AJ Styles, and the women's match, and the main event afterwards. You know, all these different things where someone's getting on the apron, referee's getting distracted, wrestlers getting distracted. It's just, I felt like it was very repetitive for the 2-hour show, condensed, all that stuff, repeating itself, just drags to me. Here's my final thoughts on it. SmackDown, it covered all the bases for Backlash. It was a good go-home show, but at the same time, it didn't get me any more excited for the pay-per-view than last week's show. Last week could have been the go-home show for all I care. I think that this one, like I said, solid action. On the whole, not as exciting as Raw, in my opinion, and it's just like, you know, there was nothing gained from that, except for maybe for Jinder Mahal being more of a threat. I just didn't see SmackDown as like really being like getting me more excited for Backlash than the previous week. That's my take on SmackDown. Let me know what you think about the shows this week in the comment section below. Be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out the Patreon page where you can get early access to Thursday videos, the exclusive Stunt Granny t-shirt, and other backer exclusive goodies. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.